So a person severely out of place on a mission of great import not many can understand takes up a sword and sets off with the assistance of a fist-fighting healer who's handy in the kitchen. You can choose to experience the story from either of their points of view. Battles are in real time and rather complex for their era, mostly because you're juggling 4 characters at once and trying to coordinate between them. The voice acting's suspect, but the whole thing's lifted up by a breathtaking Motoi Sakuraba soundtrack. And now that I'm done summarizing Star Ocean the second story, it's time to talk about Tales of Xillia. Or is it Xillia? Xillia? It's not a word that's used in the actual game, so it doesn't really have a pronunciation guide. You know, we'll just call it this game for the remainder of the review. I get the feeling that any attempt to summarize the plot of this game will, by definition, leave out about 500 things I want to mention, and which are crucial to understanding a couple seconds of the plot. Suffice it to say, the story moves fast, from one conflict to the next, wrapping up the fates of a med student, a mysterious swordswoman, a dubious mercenary, an orphan girl, a kung fu nurse, and the most badass butler this side of Lurch. And it all starts with a choice. Do you focus on Jude's side of the story, or on Milla's? I have an unabashed love of games that offer multiple viewpoints through their narrative, like the aforementioned Star Ocean the Second Story, or Monokemia 2, or heck even Odin Sphere. In the early game, though, the differences aren't that pronounced, but by the end of the game, the experiences and storylines split more and more, with Jude's story focusing mostly on those around him and Milla's focusing on the world itself. There you go. Your New Game Plus is justified.
That's strange. What part of keep quiet didn't you understand?
Mechanically, the battles are fast and frenzied, with your usually 4-man team up against around a half dozen hostiles, or maybe just one freaking aggravating moth of a boss. While this kind of real-time battle is par for the course in Tales games, this game kicks it up a notch by allowing you to tether 2 of your characters together, who will work in tandem by trying to flank enemies, provide bonuses to each other, and combine for massive linked arts attacks to go along with martial arts, spirit-shifted spirit arts, arcane arts, mystic arts, enough to make your head spin. For its credit, the game offers a number of tutorials to explain just what the heck's going on in the heat of battle, but actually understanding the mechanics will take a lot more practice. Input mistakes are also fairly common, as it seems each button, stick, and trigger on your controller does 3 different things depending on any of a billion circumstances. The difficulty curve also takes its time in smacking you in the face. It's not until many hours into the game where you hit a truly hard battle that you can't just button mash through, and it took me a couple hours of rethinking my strategy and, actually learning the intricacies of the mechanics. For its part, the game gives you a thorough level of AI control through the strategy menu, as well as the ability to set up usage guidelines for items that almost smacks of the Gambit system from Final Fantasy XII. Character development uses a system of interconnected orbs that make me think sphere grid at first glance, combined with a point-based skill capacity system that seemed like Final Fantasy IX on steroids.
You met all sorts of other girls while you were away. Good job, Jude. I'm so happy for you.
Acoustically, well, it's a mixed bag. The vocal work's a bit hit or miss depending on whether or not you chalk Milla's utterly stilted dialogue up to her alienation from actual humans. I suppose it's kind of endearing after a long while. Alright, so it might be the voice acting equivalent of Stockholm Syndrome, and if you have the sense to get the heck out of there while you can, I can't blame you. The rest of the cast are handled a bit better, even if they may be complete weirdos. But that's of little concern in the face of the kind of sweeping, epic Motoi Sakuraba soundtrack that you've come to expect from the series. Swords and fantasy and harps and big rumbling bass and frantic organ-laden battles everywhere, but in a welcome change of pace, a few moments of dirty, experimental jazz that seem a world apart from what you were expecting. But that comes later. Tales of, this game had me stapled to my couch, digging deeper and deeper, looking for the next plot twist in a series of massive plot twists that, and I don't know if it's just because I was recently playing Final Fantasy VIII, aka the exact wrong way to handle these kinds of things, all seem to carry just enough foreshadowing despite my only seeing part of the plot. The one frustration I have, though, is that quests and side events gave no indication whatsoever of who to talk to or where to find the NPC or event that you're looking for, save for a relatively tiny exclamation point icon above their head. Still, at least you usually get a lead-off skit that alludes to the side quest in some way. Beats trying to track down a 3-eyed alien woman in a random bar. I know I've made a number of references to Star Ocean in these reviews of Tales games, but that's because Star Ocean is no longer a thing that exists, and Tales of Xillia, along with most of the rest of them, gives me that same kind of high-energy RPG experience I so desperately crave. with a side of seriously kick-ass soundtrack and a generous scoop of believable character development. Fries are an extra $1.80 though.
Isn't it a bit, well, too short?
I know, isn't that great?
And unrestricted.
I guess so.